lot of people keep telling me or write to me, or at least we know about the fact that there's a lot of people that have read my work, my book, The Market Gardener. And you know, I wrote The Market Gardener in 2011 after, you know, 8 years of running this farm, La Grelinette, which is my home-based farm. We're in Quebec, and it's really an acre and a half of permanent raised beds, you know, double, triple cropped, with about 300 people that are serviced by the food that we grow here. It's a small farm. It's run by my wife, Madeleine. She doesn't really like these cameras and this kind of exposure that we have, so I do it, and she's proud of me and she supports me, but she's still running the farm after 20 years, and she's enjoying it. And I always come back to the farm here because that's what the message was in the book. You can do it. It's possible to make it work financially on just a few acres. It still is. The numbers work. We can make a good living farming a small piece of land like that. But there's a lot of tricks that goes into it, and there's a lot of know-how about how to approach all of this. And that led me, you know, after the book, to touring and talking about it a lot, and then eventually starting a farm school that you've perhaps seen. A lot of people know me also because of the TV show Les Fermiers, which was on national TV here in Quebec, and also, you know, pretty much in all the Francophone countries of the world. Big thing in France. And that I was showcasing a farm school where I was teaching 10 apprentices a year, like this kind of farming, but on a larger playing chess. It was a big board where there's a lot of things going on, and people learn how to cope with stress, cope with, you know, overworked, and dealing with complexity and all of that. And you can check out FQT Farm. It's amazing. The project is still going on. And you now see me at the Old Mill, which is about 5 minutes from here, which is the restaurant that we've opened, and the farm project, that's the one that I'm running now. It's small scale, but I'm really appreciating the fact that I'm meeting people. Customers come to the farm, they come to the farm to table, they can eat, and we can chat, and they can see the garden, which is not the case here, because this is my home. We don't open this space to the public, but today I'm gonna tour you, okay? So let's walk into it. So, I think when we walk the farm, a lot of the images, they speak for themselves. You know, we've been doing this a long time, so we know how to do things pretty well. Doesn't say that we don't have failures or problems, but generally speaking, I would say we have about a 90%, 95% success rate on most of the crops that we grow, and the density is fully on. So it's covering every square foot of this farm is veggies grown in succession. And that's really the key. And I keep saying this all the time, managing space to maximize it, but also time, which is a big part of the crop planting that we do. And, you know, having the right density for the crops so that you can really create a canopy that shades out the weed, retains the moisture. These are the stuff, this is the kind of information that I've been kind of sharing for all these years. But also dealing with soil. And, you know, there's a big overhype, in my opinion, on no-till systems right now. I think a lot of that is marketing, to be honest. But minimal tillage practices, working on permanent beds, working with tools like a broad fork, a power harrow, black tarps. These are all things that when I was farming here, nobody else was doing. It just didn't exist. And now if you look at most small scale market garden, a lot of these things, that's what they've implemented, and that's great. That's great. And also we have a lot of growers bringing in some super cool innovation, tool manufacturers kicking in with new tools. You know, there's now an industry, but when I started with Madeleine, none of this really existed. At least we hadn't seen it before. We had seen farms in Cuba that were kind of farming this way. Obviously, we had read Elliot Coleman. We had visited Elliot at his farm. It was much larger scale than this. It wasn't on permanent beds. It was fantastic, and the quality of the vegetables was amazing. But here was different because we had land constraint and we needed to figure out how to do this. Do some companion planting and really make sure that because we don't have more land, we're keeping it clean so that we're not infested with weeds, but we're also, you know, working with the soil to minimize disturbance so that we have soil that's really kicking and pumping every year. And you know, 20 years of doing this and the veggies are still amazing, we're still high yielding crops, I think is the best testimonial of the farming practices that Maud Hélène and I have adopted here. Maud Hélène's my wife. I don't know if you didn't know. So she's amazing. So now we're in another parcel. You see we use a lot of insect nets. These are really the backbone of how we manage a lot of the insect crops, insect problems, especially with the crucifers. But you see it's density, and that's what market gardening is about. It's about creating that density where you have these high yields on 100-foot beds. And see, this is a fence. Be careful, Chris. So we have deers here. That's becoming an issue as the deers evolve. But you see how there's a lot of veggies here. If you 100-foot row of these sugar snap peas, it's a lot of work to pick them, and it's a lot of peas. And that's what people, I've been kind of really excited about sharing all these years. Like, man, this is not a big piece of land, but there's a lot of veggies. It's a lot of work. You know, this is 4 or 5 full-time staff working on that 1.5 acres. And you know, this year I think we'll be producing more than $350,000 worth of produce, probably more than that. We have the clientele for that, which is a big part of it, but we also have the supply from the farm with the veggies pumping in and the nice rotations. Cover crop program also, that's really important to sustain the yields over the year. Irrigation's been an issue. We've dug the pond a few times now. Now, this week we've had a well drilled right next to the pond. So now it was the second time that we were making the pond bigger. We did a YouTube video about that. That kind of solved the problem, but not so much. Climate change is really stressing things here. So now we have well water that's going to feed the pond when we do miss out on water. But you know, I think this is important to see. And you know, it's really always important for me to say that this is not easy. It's not like market gardening, easy money, easy growing, blah, blah, blah. You just do the little tricks that I show or other growers show. It's not that it's easy, it's that it's accessible. You can do this. And it's also relevant. It's relevant to our time and age. It's relevant to what the world needs, like food grown with care by people who care. And then it's the approach of how you do it, how you do the growing. And then, you know, I've been talking about non-tractor farming for all these years, but when you look at the fields, there's no room for a tractor here because we don't have the room. And that's really the only thing I have to say about that.